Welcome to 5 Minutes in the Word, a daily devotional in the Word of God. So, Mr. Gary, we recently went through 2 Timothy chapter 2, and as we did, we mentioned several times, how to be a good soldier for Christ
Right.
and kind of what all that entailed. So now we're going to move on to chapter 3 today, starting there in verse 1. And here in these really, not necessarily verse 1, but coming in these first little section, you're going to see a lot of things that we're going to try to avoid very quickly. But starting in verse 1, it says, "But understand this, that in the last days there will come times of difficulty." And this is a great way, just as he kind of starts this warning that he's given to him at first, to just let him know he's going to have to pay attention. There's in these days, after the resurrection of Christ, we're going to be entering into these last days, and so there's going to be difficulties, difficult times that are going to come, and there are going to be people of all sorts. Unfortunately, there are going to be many people that just do not believe, and beyond not believe, they actually are fighting in direct opposition to the Lord's church and to the cause of Christ. And so, what do you see as we start this chapter?
Well, it goes through quite a list, and as you said, if we go into too much depth, we probably spend more than 1 week.
More than a week of just these words. That's right.
So he says, but know this, that in the last days perilous times will come, for men will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, unloving, unforgiving, slanderers, without self-control, brutal, despisers of good, traitors, headstrong, haughty, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having a form of godliness, but denying its power, and from such people turn away. It really is quite a list. It's significant, I think, how many of these things in the very opening part of this have to do with this is what you're in love with.
Mm-hmm.
And a Christian's really supposed to be in love with God, which, by the way, he gets to later in this series. But instead, some people are going to love themselves of all things. They're going to be interested only in themselves.
Well, that's a word that kind of I picked up through all of this, and I know that when we sin, they're all selfish decisions. Okay,
Yeah.
so we sin because we want to sin.
That's it.
And so, but as you see, this lovers of self, and then it goes on. It has lovers of money, proud, arrogant. I mean, you see the first four that are listed here. That you're pride, arrogance, lovers of self. I mean, that here you're having a person that is so self-absorbed and self-focused and self-pleasing that they're willing to just about do anything as long as it pleases themselves. And that's kind of what I see kind of as we get started with this list.
No, that's it. And of course, then that is what leads to, and that's what you're indicating, it leads to all of these things. If you love yourself, then you'll speak against God, because what difference will it make?
Right.
Your love is for self. It's not for God anyway. If you love yourself, then you're not going to have any self-control.
Oh, absolutely. Well, which kind of leads to the idea of lovers of money, people that love money, they don't have self-control with their finances.
Right.
Skip over proud and arrogant, go to abusive. Or disobedient to their parents.
Right.
So a person that's abusive, no matter what you're talking about, physical abuse, drug abuse, sexual abuse, there's all kinds of abuse that's in the world. Whatever we're describing here is all of not being able to control, not being able to put things into submission that need to be. The submission definitely falls into the category there of being disobedient to parents. You don't always have to agree with your parents, but as far as being disobedient to them, that's wrong there before the Lord.
Right.
The Lord says so. And then you kind of come into some things like ungrateful. Ungrateful is kind of mixed into some of these things like how does this fit? But being ungrateful it's a problem, and that people's self-reliance and thinking, well, I deserve, and give to me, and I earn this. Well, maybe we don't deserve and need, and maybe we don't get what we actually deserve. But unholy, that's a big one for me. Unholy is a big one for me, because that's a direct in contrast to what God is. God is holy. We're to be holy as He is holy, and so I see the direct contrast between the way this is being represented and the way God wants us to be. All of this, as you said, all of it ties into being selfish, to not loving God, not doing what He's told us to do. And there's definitely a lot of problems as you come through this list.